So let's jump right into it. Cut that part out. But we have dramatic effect for the episode. There's not much else I can say about except that.
Right.
What is going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in. It's Real Talk by Our Stories, Your Legacy, and we're back again with another fire round episode. Just a reminder for all our listeners, viewers who just know that we've been keeping doing this for the past year and a half now, especially during the pandemic. Fire round episodes are basically us, and it's not just, specific to us or special because of us, but it's just our sharing of our stories and our thoughts as we're living through the pandemic, during these times. And these fire round episodes are basically whatever hot or trending topic that we came across or something that one of us just been inspired by and just wanted to talk about it week to week, right? And so today's episode, welcome. As you all know, we always like to record at the beginning of the week. So today is Monday, July 5th, and this is the United States federal observed holiday of the 4th of July Independence Day celebration. So welcome to the second 4th of July celebration of the pandemic. As most of y'all know from our series, the pandemic's still going on until we stop hearing about it, or maybe some form of normalcy, cough, cough, politics come back into the world, right? Last year in 2020, deep in the midst of city lockdowns, 4th of July still kind of came and went, if I could kind of recall. This year, it seems we're nearing the end of widespread cautions because of vaccines and all that. But how is this year any different now, or this weekend? How is it different than what we were feeling, especially now that we are feeling like we're crawling out of this blip in time, right? And stepping back to, making things normal. So in today's episode, we're going to have a short discussion, basically catching up on our 4th of July of the year 2021 weekend, and how we feel if it's a sign to come of what to expect in the future of the COVID-19 pandemic, after all of our stresses and anxieties, our growth and reflections, and every experience beyond and in between, there's still some sense of the unexpected of in our future. So as always, before we jump in, we're going to do a quick check-in around the room or the virtual room and just see who is all with us today. And of course, you got myself. And then I am going to say hi to Zavon. Missed you last week. He's back with us today. How's it going today, man?
It's going all right. It's going all right. Glad to be back. But you know how it is. Same shit, different day.
Mm-hmm.
As you kind of prefaced earlier. But yeah, holding on.
Well, it's always good to have you, man. Appreciate you, my brother. Tyler, how's your observed 4th of July? It's so weird to say because it's the 5th, but how's your observed 4th of July holiday weekend day to you? Or just how are you in general?
Doing well. Had a cup of coffee before I hopped on, evening coffee, just because kind of been busy, been on the road most of the day. So I was camping this weekend. So I got back not too long ago, actually. So loaded, unloaded, all that stuff. Yeah, so spent most of my day loading the car, driving, and then unloading the car. So one of those days. Long day, but it was a good day. Good weekend.
Oh, yeah. I will cut you off right there because I know that basically what you're going to be talking about is going to be the meat, of our discussion today. So I don't want you to spill too much until we jump right into it. All right, let's jump right into it. So I'm going to throw the first question of the day. So we're going to just have, a fun, short and sweet episode kind of related to the pandemic and kind of the holiday weekend. Because, with every holiday, it typically tends to be usually a time for us to kind of, reflect or, majority of us have time off from work. And so, it's one of those days we kind of naturally take time to refresh ourselves or spend quality time with friends and family and whatnot. And so it's one of those things where it kind of naturally lands on the time when we're going to do an episode, and so it's perfect timing that we get to discuss a holiday weekend, right? So I'm gonna throw this first question out there for both of y'all, and you guys chime in whenever. The first question of tonight, straightforward, very simple. How did you spend your 4th of July weekend this year?
Well, I can just hop in here since I kind of alluded to it already. So this year, what I did for the 4th of July is I went camping. And yeah, it's pretty much, I mean, I can't really say much more than that. Went camping on the at a state park. So drove over there Friday and then just spent the weekend there and packed it up all today and then came back. So
yeah, how busy was it on the road getting there, and then how busy was it at the state park?
yeah, so getting there on Friday, there was some traffic just because it was a holiday weekend. So I feel like everyone was leaving on Friday. So it took us a little bit longer than it would normally take to get there because we were going basically to central Washington. So usually it's about an hour and a half drive. I think it took about 2:15. So about 45 minutes worth of traffic and stuff. So it wasn't too bad though. Drive wasn't horrible. Had, time to talk and do whatever as part of discussions and whatnot. And then as far as the state park, it was pretty busy. I would say all the spots were taken. So there's that. There was a fire ban kind of happening too. So like level 3, which is no like wood fire, charcoal fire, any of that. So that was one of those things we had to account for going into it. Obviously, this time of year, it's not super dry typically in Washington. It's kind of rainy or it's kind of like chilled to where it's not like we're in like a burn ban already. Typically, you don't see burn bans until like end of the July and then all of August when you're camping and stuff. So this year, I think they implemented the burn ban the last week of June just because it's been so dry in the state, especially with that crazy 100-degree, weekend we had and all that 4-day stretch of the heat wave or whatever. So there was a burn ban. So basically we had to do is you could only use propane for fires and stuff. So if if you're cooking anything, you had to bring a propane stove, grill, and like fire pits, because they sell those fire pits and all that stuff that run on propane. So that was kind of the only thing with this weekend that was kind of a bummer. We couldn't do any fires just because, well, one, we didn't really have a fire pit, and it's kind of weird making s'mores over like a mini propane grill because you don't really get that true carcinogen type of taste off of like a hot coal bed and that kind of stuff. So yeah. So other than that, yeah, not like last year while I was camping and stuff. So it's kind of weird. Just it wasn't weird, but no fireworks or anything around us. We thought we would hear more, but not too many things happening as far as fireworks. Just even in the distance, in the cities and all that stuff around us. So that was good. And it's kind of weird, honestly. I feel like a lot of the campsite at the state park was in bed and asleep by like 11:30. So it was kind of different than what I'm used to.
Cool. Yeah, hold on. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, it does. It seemed like, I mean, we'll get into that in a little later in the next question, but fireworks was definitely a strange experience too. But Zavon, but before I get into that, let's finish off this first question. Zavon, I'm pass it over to you, man. How did you spend your 4th of July weekend this year?
So for me, I did more like on the days before, and after. So yeah, so this past was it Saturday now? Third. And today I did a lot of like housework and errands and stuff, but I mean, I love the productivity. But in terms of Saturday, so for Saturday, my family and I, we went to Ocean Shores. And funny enough, for the 27 years, all my life living in Washington, that was my first time ever going to Ocean Shores or actually even seeing the Pacific Ocean on the side of Washington. Or even being on the far west side of Washington. First time ever.
Wow.
It was really nice. It was a little chilly, but it was tolerable.
Yeah.
But it was crazy because when we were there, it was like 60, around the 60s, 60, 65 at the highest, and cloudy. So we didn't get a lot of sun, but there was a lot of breeze coming off the coast. Still felt nice. A lot of people there. It was great to see everyone and felt a nice sense of normalcy when we were there. Like being a single person in a mask, it just felt like nothing happened. Like the past year and a half that we've been going through like COVID and government regulation stuff. But besides that, it was a good day. It was a really good day just being out there for the first time with family. And what really amazed me is like it was like 60 degrees over there, but like in DuPont at like it was like all sun and like 78 degrees.
Right.
So it's funny, like my mom and I, we just assumed it's like, oh, if it's like 77 here, like in DuPont, it should be like a good 70 over there. But it's like, oh, whoops.
Right, a significant difference.
Yeah. And it really isn't that far, like out there. It only took us like an hour and 35 minutes to get there, 40 minutes. Yeah.
But that
just,
body of
just
water,
a little
though.
over an hour and a half. Yeah. It's just like, so, but it was just crazy to think of like how dynamic of a temperature difference it was. And the fact like it was just like cloudy over there, but nice little town over there.
Yeah. Nice, man. I mean, that's kind of like going out to, for our listeners, that the area is called Ocean Shores. Ocean City is it's kind of like down the stretch from it. That's kind of like my favorite go-to, especially if it's kind of like just a day trip, just make a day drive out of it. And, just pull up on the beach and check out the water. Like Zavon said, it's so incredible how not too far of a distance it is. It's a good way to get away from the city a little bit. Were you there all weekend?
No, I wish. I was just actually texting my brother about it today.
Yeah.
I wish we were still there, but no,
Just
we
there
were just
for the
there
day?
Saturday. Yeah, just all day
Okay.
Saturday. Yeah, I still find it funny that was like my first time seeing the Pacific Coast, like in Washington. Like I've seen it more times in California and like Hawaii.
Right.
So,
yeah, a reason why I was asking that was because I was curious if I just spit on my arm or something. I was curious. Usually, my family and I, we would camp out there. It's been about over 2 years now. I think the last time we camped there obviously was pre-pandemic, but every 4th, which is usually hard to book. So you got to book it like a year in advance each time. But during the 4th out there in Ocean Shores, the fireworks out there is crazy. Like, excuse my, imagery and, not trying to make it too political, but it was like a battlefield out there where like you would literally have to tape off your own section just so that you can secure your spot on the beach for your family. Let's say you brought like, I don't know, 10, 15 members of your family, and you guys each brought your own car or RV, to space it out from everyone else because everyone else is just shooting fireworks nonstop on the beach, from the entire stretch of the beach. So like, when firework time, like, when the sun sets, when you can see it clearly, it's sometimes even hard to see the lights of the fireworks because it gets so smoky, and it is such a crazy but kind of a surreal experience, kind of just being on the beach and everyone just firing off fireworks. So I don't know if were you able to see any of that on Saturday or I don't know, maybe there was a burn ban or something.
Yeah, I did see a few signs of a burn ban and stuff, but I think that was like in select areas. Like there were still folks lighting off a couple of mortars and Roman candles like on the beach, but it wasn't
Mhm.
like as lot. It wasn't as like as wild as I originally had expected it to be.
Yeah.
It was crowded, but it wasn't like super crowded. It wasn't even as crowded as I thought it'd be.
Hmm.
We didn't even hit a lot of traffic. I don't even think we hit traffic at all going there. I literally thought it was gonna be like a 4th of July weekend, like traffic jam just going out there.
Right.
Because I know like everyone wants to get out, especially now that pretty much the state's pretty much like open, according to the June 30th
Hmm.
doctrine, whatever.
That's
But
interesting.
besides that, like, yeah, folks were lighting off fireworks, but I mean, it wasn't like my mom even took a nap in the car and it didn't phase her. So,
Yeah.
and like it was crowded, but it wasn't like super crowded. Like you couldn't find a spot. Like there was
Right.
a lot of breathing room and stuff.
That is interesting because usually, yeah, it's like packed.
But on 4th of July day, I can't speak for that. That
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my sister was there yesterday on the 4th, and she like sent me some of her videos and stuff. It was a war zone for sure.
Oh yeah. That's what I remembered.
Oh, it was just crazy. It didn't look too like crowded, but
Right.
it was like just mortar shells going off like
Yeah.
direction you can possibly think of.
Right. No, yeah, that's what I remembered. And so that's why like it's always a popular spot. I'm surprised that it wasn't busy or it didn't seem like it was overly busy the entire weekend though. So that's pretty interesting to know. Nice. Yeah, for me, my 4th of July weekend was super chill. I mean, you know, I just got a new puppy. And so if it wasn't for my family who came out to visit for the summer from Houston, um, you know, I probably would have no plans to stay home and try to keep the puppy safe, try to see if, the fireworks around us is going to affect her in a bad way. But, she did a good job. And um, overall, but we went to my parents' house for dinner, where my family from Houston out there, was cooking for us and, barbecuing and everything. My parents have a nice backyard patio, and so we kind of lit like a little bonfire safely in a portable pit, and so roasted some marshmallows and just kicked back with the kids and you know talked to each other and did a lot of drinking. And typically at my parents' house, there a lot of the neighbors there and usually fire off a lot of fireworks. I mean, like the day after or the night after, it's just what is that, remnants, the garbage of all the fireworks after they've been shot off or lit all over the place. So it's kind of like a neighborhood cleanup, sweeping it. But this year, either they chose not to do anything or they all left town because it was quiet, except like my parents' house. And what I mean by quiet, like except my parents' house, it's not like we're blasting karaoke or anything. It was just like it was a normal day. No fireworks at all in my parents' neighborhood. On the neighborhood next to them, which is outside of their cul-de-sac, there was like one neighbor shooting off like big mortars in the bright daylight, and it's like, really, like we can't even see it, we just hear it. But pre-pandemic, usually if you have a crazy neighbor who shoots off mortars in the bright daylight where you can't even see it, typically they have better stuff saved for night, or they can afford having better stuff. But we didn't stay too long to see if they did. But yeah, they were like firing off mortars in the daylight. But other than that, it was like relatively quiet, and so it was interesting to see. But it was a nice fourth spent on last Sunday. Sorry, not last Sunday, yesterday. As you all know, we record this on Monday, so that Sunday was really it was really peaceful. It wasn't the fourth that I expected typically. So I'm gonna start with you, Zavon, and so that's a perfect segue to kind of our last question of the night, as it relates to the pandemic. And so, Zavon, since you were the last one to speak about your experience on the 4th of July weekend, so here's a question: compared to last year, like what are your thoughts on how you spent it, or how you or so you could speak on yourself, and or and how you kind of whether through social media or whether through how you saw the traffic and all that stuff, like how you saw others spending their Fourth of July weekend. What do you feel like that kind of says about our outlook on the pandemic?
Sorry, can you like repeat that question about like paraphrase it?
Yeah. So basically, compared to last year of how you spent the Fourth of July weekend, or maybe how you saw others have been spending it, do you feel like that is a sign of the times? Like the way that people spent it this year, or how you spent it, is kind of like it provides kind of like a future outlook of how the pandemic is either winding down, or it seems like people are caring less about it, or like what is it saying about the pandemic? Are we finally at the midst of it ending based on how people have been spending this fourth, or do you feel like it doesn't say anything at all? It's kind of people are still in the pandemic mode.
Oh yeah, okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, compared to last year, like when I was over at Ocean Shores at least, like I said, it just felt like a normal day. Like the pandemic never happened. Like I went to a gift shop and it was like packed in there. Like everyone was just like shoulder to shoulder. I'm not a fan of crowds. That's just my introverted side of me, but it was nice to see. I still like the sight of people, and knowing that, people are around doing their thing and all that stuff. It's just like that community feel. And yeah, compared to last year, I can't recall a lot from last year, other than like I know, because it was like a hot political time. Like people were not like, there was just like this whole political culture war on like whether or not Fourth of July should be canceled or not. Especially like last summer, we all know, quote unquote, the summer of love was like a not even summer of love at all. It was just like a lot of crazy stuff happening. So Fourth of July was on the brink of, I guess, being quote unquote canceled by like some folks like on a certain political spectrum. So it just, like, other than that, like I just know it was like, because like the pandemic was still fresh and things were just happening, like from what I recall off the top of my head, like it wasn't as, highly celebrated as it was this year. Especially, folks are getting vaccinated, state restrictions opened up, and people just want to get out. They're done. I will say there was a lot more patriotism this year, and traveling out and about compared to last year, because like last year, so much stuff was happening politically, and it just felt like pretty much like I'll use the term loosely, but civil war kind of going on, just a lot of yelling back and forth and stuff. And having Fourth of July like in the scope of some people, like just to be canceled and berated and whatnot. But yeah, this year just it felt more patriotic for sure, especially at Ocean Shores, dude. They're like 90% of the cars there had like American flags on them. It was actually pretty cool to see and stuff. People were dressed up, people were excited. Like I said, just felt like a normal day. So compared to last year, yeah, it was nice to see the 4th of July be really celebrated this year and stuff. So, and to be a part of it, at least like outside of town.
Yeah, man, those are good points. And yeah, beside the political part of it too, of last year, 2020, Independence Day. Yeah, I remember here, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, I mean, we were in the midst of that crazy wildfire season, right? And so, knock on wood, I mean, we just got out of a heat wave. I mean, we haven't even hit wildfire season yet, knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't come, but I mean, it's bound to come. I mean, we're just starting July, so July, August, early September, still that hot summer season. But yeah, I mean, there was, you brought up a good point. I mean, I feel the same way. It feels like it was a lot more community this year, a lot more people out and about just kind of like going about as if things were pre-pandemic levels, enjoying time with friends and family, going out to enjoy times with friends and family, or going out to a park, right, and enjoying time there. I would say the only difference, though, and I'm curious if Tyler will say differently, uh, where I live, like I was mentioning earlier, all the neighbors in my parents' neighborhood either sheltered up for the night, just to like didn't care about celebrating or didn't care about coming out, or they were all out of town. Like just, maybe that's the thing about to kind of answer this question. It's like, I think what it says about the pandemic, especially here in the Pacific Northwest with vaccines levels up, finally, what did you say, Zavon? June 30th, the order to officially open everything up at high capacity. It seems like everyone's just finally taking advantage of just getting out of town, right? Doing everything before, knock on wood, anything bad happens, but just taking a flight out or driving out. And I think it's pretty awesome to see, because it seems like, we are all fed up with kind of this moment of being in a blip of lockdowns, right? And I'm not even going to get into political reason, but just more of like us just trying to figure out how do we stay safe and how do we keep each other safe and how do we navigate kind of this new virus that and it's not a new virus, but like this just this new thing of our time that's keeping us locked in. And so it's cool to see, but I'm curious to see, because it sounded like things were normal out on the coast firework wise, and I'm curious what Tyler's going to say. But for me, I realize, at least in the suburbs, or at least in the city where people are like living, I realized fireworks were less. Like, I don't know, because especially in the Pacific Northwest with the heat wave and fire bans in almost every single city now. And as we all know, here living in Washington, well, I don't know about over on central or east side of Washington, where it's definitely a lot hotter, but on the west side of Washington, here in the more metro area, when there's a fire ban in your city, unless you have a really bad neighbor who calls the cops on you, or unless you started a fire, knock on wood, but fire ban is really lightly handled, right? But this year, I've realized there's, besides that one or two neighbors, fireworks were really low this year. So I'm curious to see like how fireworks sales overall was for the 4th, right? I know hot dog sales went up. I saw that in the news because, like, apparently 4th of July barbecue food was a lot lower this year by like 16 cents or something like that, I read. So I probably bet hot dog sales were up, but I'm curious how fireworks sales were, at least around this area. And so, and the only time I saw a lot of fireworks going on was in the city of Auburn, where, for those who don't know, is where a huge Indian reservation is out, where they do their own fireworks and they abide by their own laws. And so typically, naturally, that is the place that I saw that was like nonstop fireworks all through the night. So I don't know what that says. But I say the overall bigger picture, I agree with Zavon, is that I see like a lot of family and friends getting together or getting out of town, which is huge. Everyone's just getting out there and having a good time with each other, building that community, or just seeing each other in crowds, for better or worse, but at least to kind of have that sense of normalcy back, to enjoy a holiday, right? So with that said, Tyler, your turn, man, kind of from your experience of this 4th. So the question again is, compared to last year, what are your thoughts on how you spent it this year compared to last year, or how you see others have spent it? And kind of like, what do you think that says about the future of this ongoing pandemic?
Yeah. So, I mean, compared to last year, my 4th was more or less kind of the same. Typically for the 4th, I actually usually leave anyways. I usually run in this running like races and stuff. So there's usually a series down in like Portland area, down in Oregon, that I would typically run. It's usually 3, 4, sometimes 5 races in the weekend, wherever the fourth ends up falling. So that's something that I've done for, I don't know how many years. I think 4 or 5 of the years. I know it's been happening for like 10, but again, I didn't really get into running that many races in a row until later in my running career. So I've done it 4 or 5 years. And the guy who actually puts on all of the races outside the main one. So the main race is always on July 4th. And that's kind of like a traditional thing down in Portland. But the guy who puts on the other races, so whatever that may be, the other 2, 3, or 4, whatever it is, when he puts his races on, whatever, this was his 2020 was supposed to be his 10th year doing it. And it was his final year doing it because it just takes so much time being a race director, all of that. So he was basically going to call it quits after last year. It was going to be his last kind of hurrah kind of thing with those races and everything. So we were supposed to go down there last year and do that for the last time. But, obviously COVID hit, pretty much canceled anything as far as gathering goes. So a lot of the races obviously got canceled or rescheduled. So last year, the race, at least the main one that always happens on July 4th, gave us a virtual option. So I had planned on going camping that weekend just because we knew everything got canceled. But I still had to technically run a half marathon last year. So I ran a half marathon in the morning, walked. I didn't really feel like running the whole thing because it was virtual. So I was just running around, neighborhoods and stuff. So did that, with Allie last year. That was her first half marathon. Kind of a weird introduction to her first half marathon. It was a virtual one, running around neighborhoods and stuff. So might have been a little boring for her, but I digress. So anyways, ran that and then ended up going camping. And it's like I said, more or less the same. So in previous years, I was going to run races and everything. Last year, I ended up running one virtual race and then went camping. This year, I was on the fence about camping only because we had planned it, but I also was unsure because everything that got canceled last year got pushed to this year. But because things were still a little bit more strict down in Oregon and they were just so unsure of it, they ended up canceling almost all the races. One of the races, the one that happens on July 4th, did happen, but at a lower capacity. So only I feel like 1,000 people got to sign up for it, or maybe even less than that. It might have been only 500 when they did it. And there was waves of people starting and stuff. So everyone was kind of distanced and everything. So that still happened. I did not go down and participate in that this year. Kind of broke my streak of going to that one because it's kind of a traditional thing, but that's fine. So I ended up going camping, knowing that most of those things got canceled and everything. And I was able to defer my registration to next year anyways. So that was kind of nice. So looking toward the future, I know at least next year, granted, obviously we don't know what the future looks like, and let's keep our fingers crossed as far as nothing bad happens. But next year, we're already planning a camping trip already. We're talking about that as an annual thing. But I know for a fact that if nothing bad happens, as far as the pandemic stuff goes, I will most likely be running those races. So I might try to, I don't know, maybe convince the people that I go camping with to see if we can maybe go along the coast near the Portland area, just so that I could, go run a race and then come back and just camp and then leave for a race, come back, camp, and so on. So that's what I think at least next year looks like for me. But to the other question, other part of that question, as far as how we think the future goes, I don't know. It's kind of up in the air as far as what the future holds as far as fireworks and all that stuff. I think because of the last couple of years I've gone camping, you don't really hear too much. Last year we were out by Covington or whatever last year. that Kent Covington area, and we could still hear fireworks in the distance and everything. There's still fireworks happening. But, being in central Washington yesterday, I think we might have heard 2 fireworks go off the entire night, which is kind of crazy because I'm just not used to not hearing anything on 4th of July. I don't know what it was like in the major cities and everything. I know, like you said, down in Tacoma, there's like the Indian reservation who just has like Firecracker Alley, which is what they've been deemed and everything. So that always happens every year. So I don't know what it was like in the cities, but I can say like from previous years when I was running the races and stuff, even being down in like the Portland area for races, it wasn't even really like crazy amount of fireworks. So I don't know if it's a trend, going towards like not really shooting off as many fireworks. I know you mentioned like the burn ban and everything, so who knows? Funny that you mentioned that too, because Thursday night around like 10 p.m., I know they just issued like a burn ban in Pierce County or like on the western side of the state, just to kind of make sure that everything's good. And then I drove by this house that had probably had, it was like a bonfire, 8 people around a fire. The fire that was like 5.5 feet tall. And I'm like, y'all are just, okay. You just don't care. And then pretty serious over where we were at least in central Washington. We're kind of near Cle Elum. But we were also near a town that was very small. Cle Elum was, about, I want to say 15 minutes away. But even then, like, Cle Elum is Cle Elum. There's nothing in Cle Elum. So, yeah. So kind of surprised I didn't hear anything, but also kind of not surprised that we didn't hear anything, just because we were in an area where, like, pretty rural as far as, like, people being around and whatnot. So I don't know what that means for the future, though. I feel like kids these days maybe don't get as excited for fireworks as we did when we were younger, or that's how it seems to me. I think I saw this meme, or not that I know I saw this meme a little bit a few weeks ago. It was just kind of more of a, trying to remember the exact wording. I won't say it verbatim, but basically they were saying that pets are this generation's kids and the kids, if you have kids, are then, just your extra job or whatever, or, something along those lines, whereas, like, obviously, having kids was having kids previous generation, but now it's like, that's what it was. So you're that, yeah, okay, I remember now. So this generation, plants are your pets and pets are your kids. And then if you have kids, then that's whatever is past that point. Whereas, pets were pets and kids were kids in the previous generations and stuff. But I kind of agreed, whereas plants are people's pets now, as you know, Stephen, with Vanessa and everyone in our friend group have like 20 plus plants and they all have names and everything. And then if you have a dog, that's like having a kid at this point. So I don't know, maybe it's more just like, maybe people aren't having as many kids who aren't excited about fireworks, and you have dogs that are terrified of fireworks, or I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but we'll see. We'll see. Definitely expect, something crazy next year, as far as, like, I feel like Zavon said, even being at the campsite, granted we're outside and everything, but seeing all these people with no masks and going into town to pick up groceries and stuff, and, seeing a handful of people in masks, but most people not wearing masks, it's kind of weird, but it's kind of nice, kind of being back into that norm kind of thing. So kind of nice. So who knows? I feel like it might be a little bit more back to normal-ish, or maybe crazy next year with things opening up like more fully, rather than having a little bit of hesitation, being 5 days from when our state announced that we were open 100%. So we'll see. We'll see.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, again, we're not experts. We're just a couple of people just like you and everyone else who's just living through these times and just experiencing it just like everyone else. I mean, this is just our experience. We'll be curious to see and hear feedback from everyone else and how they experienced their 4th of July weekend. But who knows? We're not analysts, but there is something to be said about the trend of how we spent this holiday, because it's kind of like in the midst of everything that we just overcame, the pre-pandemic, or not pre-pandemic, vaccines, all this stuff. So this is kind of like the tip of the hill, right? We're about to hit the climax, and whether that is going to take us right back around, knock on wood, right back around into the pandemic, into a lockdown state, or it kind of takes us off into a new time, right? A new period of things we have overcame. So who knows? That's why we discuss it. And that's why we just bring it up, just to kind of have that mental exercise. So Tyler, Zavon, any final thoughts before we wrap it up for tonight?
I don't think I have anything major tonight. Hope everyone had a good, 4th of July weekend and the observed holiday on Monday. If you work in a position where you have that holiday, if not, sorry. Hope everyone had a good time. And cheers to, next week and seeing how the state is going, I guess.
Yeah, thanks, man. Zavon, any final words?
Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed their 4th of July weekend as well. Go America.
Nice. Leave it on a positive note. 'Cause that's all we can continue to do. Appreciate it, man. So as always, we're going to end it on that note. As always, we challenge our listeners to pick up this question, reflect on your weekend, and marinate over it. See how it applies to your own life. Run it by your friends and your family. Were you over a bonfire this weekend? Start that bonfire again and have that discussion and reflect on your past weekend. But overall, keep the discussion going, keep the dialogue going, because that's how we all learn and grow together as human beings. We definitely know here at Our Stories, Your Legacy, we're not perfect. Actually, scratch that. No one's perfect. Nothing's perfect, but we're not where we want to be, but we have that consistency. We're going to keep grinding it out, keep the discussion going, keep having that mental exercise. So we appreciate y'all for listening. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, giving us feedback, and joining with us as best as you can. But as always, we'll keep doing what we're doing. We'll keep trying to keep staying consistent at it, keep trying to work at it, and we'll see y'all next week. And so this is Our Stories, Your Legacy. Thank you for listening to our real talk, and have a good night, and we'll see y'all next week.
Later.